lonely boy, a kind-hearted waitress, a stray dog show a billionaire father that true wealth isn't in money, but in love. It's kindness, and the simple moments that change lives forever. Ethan sat in the back of his black car, staring out of the tinted window as the city lights turned into quiet countryside roads. He was a man who could buy almost anything: private jets, mansions, even islands, but there was one thing his money had failed to buy: his son's happiness. Liam, his 8-year-old boy, sat beside him, small and quiet, his thin legs covered with a blanket. The accident 3 years ago had taken more than Ethan's wife. It had taken away Liam's ability to walk properly, and somewhere along the way, it had taken away Ethan's smile too. The car stopped in front of a small-town cafe. Ethan had come for a quick business meeting with a local investor. He didn't usually take Liam with him, but the boy's caretaker had called in sick, so he had no choice. Liam didn't complain. He never did, but his wide gray eyes kept wandering outside, curious about everything. Ethan helped him out of the car carefully, then guided him into the cafe. The place was cozy, filled with the smell of coffee and baked bread. It was a world away from the fancy restaurants Ethan usually went to. A young waitress came over with a bright smile. "Good morning. Table for two?" she asked. Her voice was cheerful, soft in a way that felt genuine. Liam looked up at her shyly, and for a moment she crouched down to his level. "Hi there, sweetie. Would you like some hot chocolate?" she asked kindly. Liam nodded slowly, his lips curling into the smallest smile. Ethan noticed the warmth in her tone, but didn't say anything. He just ordered a black coffee and opened his laptop. The waitress, her name tag said Maya, walked away, and Liam kept watching her as she served other customers. She was different. She laughed easily, talked gently, and treated everyone with the same kindness. Even when an older customer complained about his toast being cold, she apologized with a smile that melted his anger. When she came back with their order, Maya placed the cup carefully in front of Liam and said, "Be careful. It's a little hot." And she looked at Ethan and added softly, "Your son has beautiful eyes." Ethan just nodded stiffly. Compliments made him uncomfortable. He wasn't used to them, especially about Liam. People usually only gave him pitying looks or awkward silence. While Ethan scrolled through his emails, Liam sipped his hot chocolate slowly, enjoying every drop. But something outside caught his attention. Near the corner of the cafe window, a small brown dog was sitting in the cold, looking in through the glass. It looked thin, dirty, and hungry. Liam's eyes followed it, and when Maya noticed, she leaned closer to him. "He comes here every morning," she whispered. "I think he likes the smell of bacon." Liam giggled quietly, and it was the first real laugh Ethan had heard from his son in weeks. Maya smiled at the sound and said, "After your drink, you can come help me give him some food if your dad says it's okay." Ethan looked up from his laptop, frowning slightly. "It's not safe," he said automatically. "The dog could have fleas or something." Maya didn't argue. She just nodded politely and said, "Of course, I understand." But the disappointment in Liam's face made Ethan's chest tighten. His son lowered his eyes to the table, quiet again. When Ethan's meeting call came through, he stepped outside to take it. Through the glass, he could see Maya walking out with a paper plate. The stray dog wagged its tail as she bent down and placed food on the ground. Then, something surprising happened. Liam struggled to get up from his chair, holding on to the edge of the table for balance. He hesitated, looked toward his father's direction, then back at Maya. She noticed him and opened the cafe door. "Would you like to help me?" she asked softly. Liam nodded. He took small, uneven steps toward her, his leg braces clicking quietly with each move. Maya held the plate steady while he crouched down with effort and placed it near the dog. The animal sniffed cautiously, then started eating. Liam's face lit up. He laughed again, louder this time, pure and full of joy. When Ethan walked back in and saw them, he froze. His phone slipped from his hand without him noticing. There was his son, his fragile, shy boy, smiling wider than he'd smiled in years. His thin arms reached out as the dog licked his hand. Maya looked at Liam with gentle encouragement, her eyes warm and proud. Ethan stood there, feeling something heavy shift inside him. He had spent so much money trying to make Liam happy, expensive toys, private doctors, therapy sessions. None of it had worked. And yet here was a simple waitress, giving his son something priceless, a moment of pure happiness with nothing but kindness and a stray dog. When they returned to their table, Maya cleaned Liam's hands carefully with a napkin. "You did great," she said. "He really likes you." Liam grinned shyly. "Can I feed him again tomorrow?" Ethan opened his mouth to say no, but the words wouldn't come out. Instead, he just nodded slowly. "We'll see," he said quietly. After paying the bill, Ethan thanked Maya with a brief nod. She smiled back warmly. "Take care, both of you," she said. "And tell Liam I'll save some food for his little friend tomorrow." In the car, Liam kept talking about the dog, how its ears were floppy, how its tail wagged so fast, how happy it looked when it got food. Ethan listened quietly, driving without his usual impatience. He kept seeing the image in his mind, Liam's hands holding the plate, the dog eating, and Maya smiling proudly beside him. That night in the hotel, Liam fell asleep quickly, still smiling. Ethan sat by the window, looking out at the city lights again. For years he had believed success meant never showing weakness, never letting emotions control him. But now he wasn't sure anymore. The look on his son's face that morning had done something to him. Something no amount of money could undo. He thought of Maya's calm, kind eyes and her easy laughter. There was something real about her, something he hadn't seen in a long time. She didn't know who he was or how much money he had. She had just seen a boy who needed kindness, and she gave it freely as the night grew quiet. Ethan realized he couldn't stop thinking about that little cafe. He told himself it was for Liam, that maybe it was good for the boy to have something to look forward to. But deep down, he knew it wasn't just for Liam. Something inside him had changed too. Though he couldn't yet explain how, he turned off the lights and glanced once more at his sleeping son. Liam's breathing was soft, peaceful. Ethan whispered almost to himself, "Maybe we'll go back tomorrow." It was a simple thought, but for the first time in years, it came with a feeling Ethan had almost forgotten how to feel hope. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the cafe windows, and the smell of coffee filled the air. Maya was already busy, tying her apron and humming softly as she wiped the tables. She had been working at this cafe for almost 3 years, and though the hours were long, she loved her job. Her life wasn't easy. She lived in a small apartment with her younger brother, Ben, who was still in high school. Their mother had passed away 2 years ago after a long illness, leaving Maya with unpaid hospital bills and a mountain of responsibilities. But no matter how tired she felt, Maya always found a reason to smile. Every morning before customers arrived, she packed a small piece of bread or bacon from the kitchen and went outside to feed the same stray dog. He was thin, brown, with sad eyes, but a wagging tail that never stopped. "Good morning, buddy," she said softly, placing the food near the dumpster behind the cafe. "Don't worry, I didn't forget you." The dog wagged his tail and ate quickly, then licked her hand. That small gesture always made her day start right as the morning rush began. Maya looked up to see a familiar black car stop in front of the cafe. Her heart warmed when she saw the little boy from yesterday. Liam's face was pressed against the car window, excitement clear in his eyes. When Ethan helped him out, Maya smiled and waved. "You're back," she said happily. Liam's smile grew bigger. Ethan nodded politely. "He wanted to come," he said, trying to sound casual. He didn't mention that he had canceled an important meeting just so they could. Maya guided them to the same table as before. "Hot chocolate again for my favorite little customer?" she asked cheerfully. Liam nodded eagerly. "And for you, sir?" she asked, glancing at Ethan. "Just coffee," he said, his voice soft but distracted. His eyes followed Liam, who was already looking around for the dog. When Maya returned with their drinks, Liam whispered shyly, "Is the dog here?" Maya leaned closer, lowering her voice as if sharing a secret. "He's outside waiting for breakfast," she said with a wink. "Would you like to help me feed him again?" Liam looked at his father hopefully. Ethan hesitated. He remembered the joy on his son's face yesterday. Something inside him wanted to say yes, but the cautious part of him still held back. Just be careful, he finally said. That was all Maya needed to hear. She smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of him." She led Liam to the back door. The dog was already sitting there, tail wagging. Maya handed Liam a small plate of scrambled eggs and toast. Liam's hands trembled a little as he crouched down. "Hey, doggy," he said softly. The dog sniffed the air and took a careful step closer. When it began eating, Liam laughed out loud again. His laughter echoed across the alleyway, light and beautiful. Ethan stood at the door watching silently. Something stirred in his chest, an emotion he couldn't quite name. Maya knelt beside Liam, guiding his hand gently so he wouldn't drop the plate. She didn't treat him like he was fragile. She treated him like any other kid. And for Liam, that made all the difference. When they came back inside, Liam wouldn't stop talking. "Dad," the dog wagged his tail. "He likes me. Can we name him?" he asked, excitement glowing in his face. Ethan smiled faintly, something he hadn't done in a long time. "If you want," he said, "maybe." "Max," Liam said proudly. Maya laughed. "That's a perfect name," she said. As the day went on, Maya moved from table to table, serving customers, but every now and then she'd glance at Liam, who waved at her with a grin each time. Ethan noticed how she made the entire cafe feel warmer. When an elderly man spilled his coffee, Maya rushed to clean it without a hint of frustration. When a crying baby disturbed a couple's breakfast, she offered to bring an extra muffin on the house. She had this natural way of making people feel cared for. And Ethan found himself watching her more than he realized. When Maya finally took her short break, Ethan asked, "Do you always feed that dog?" She smiled. "Every day. He's been around for a while. I think someone abandoned him." She paused for a moment, then added, "Animals don't ask for much. Just a bit of food and kindness." Ethan looked down at his cup, thinking about how those simple words sounded heavier than they should. "You must really love animals," he said quietly. "I do," she replied. "I want to open a rescue shelter someday. A small place where stray dogs and cats can get food, warmth, and love." She laughed lightly. "But for now, I just do what I can." Ethan didn't say anything, but something about her words stayed with him. Here was a young woman who had almost nothing yet still gave what little she could. When they left that day, Liam waved goodbye to Maya and promised to come back tomorrow. She smiled. "I'll save extra food for Max," she said. Ethan opened the car door for his son, but before getting in, Liam said softly, "Dad, Maya's really nice." Ethan nodded. "Yes, she is." That night, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about her. He had met countless people in his life's business partners, thought investors, rich families, but none of them had that same genuine kindness. He thought about the way she had spoken to Liam, the way she'd smiled without any trace of pity or awkwardness. She didn't care about who he was or how much money he had. She just saw a boy and his father. The next morning, when his assistant called to confirm a meeting, Ethan found himself saying, "Reschedule it." He didn't even try to explain why. He just wanted to see his son happy again. When they arrived at the cafe for the third time, Maya greeted them like old friends. "Look who's back," she said. Liam giggled, already asking about Max. The dog was waiting again, tail wagging happily. This time, Ethan followed them outside. Maya smiled when she saw him. "Would you like to join us?" she asked. Ethan hesitated, then crouched down beside his son. He felt awkward at first, unsure of what to do. The dog looked up at him cautiously, then moved closer. Liam reached out, his small hand resting on the dog's head. Ethan slowly did the same. The fur was rough, but warm. The dog didn't pull away. Liam looked up at his father with wide, happy eyes. "He likes you too, Dad." Yes. Ethan felt something break open inside him. For a moment, he forgot about the company, the meetings, the endless emails. All that mattered was that his son was smiling. When they went back inside, Maya handed them a napkin and said softly, "You both looked good out there." Ethan chuckled quietly, surprised at how natural it felt. "It's been a while since I've done something like that," he admitted. Maya smiled. Sometimes the smallest things make the biggest difference. Later that evening, as they drove away, Ethan watched Liam through the rearview mirror. The boy was humming to himself, clutching a small biscuit Maya had given him to feed Max the next day. Ethan realized he hadn't seen his son this alive in years, and for the first time, Ethan didn't feel like a powerful billionaire or a busy businessman. He just felt like a father one who was finally beginning to understand what his son truly needed. The next morning came with a light breeze and golden sunlight. The small cafe was already waking up, and the familiar smell of freshly baked bread filled the air. When Maya stepped outside with a small tray of leftovers, the brown dog Max, as Liam had named him, was already waiting. "Good morning, Max," she said with a smile. "Your little friend is probably coming soon." The dog wagged his tail like he understood her. Just a few minutes later, a sleek black car stopped in front of the cafe again. Liam pressed his nose to the window, smiling wide when he saw Maya. Ethan followed his son's gaze and couldn't help but smile too. He hadn't planned on coming back today, but Liam had woken up early and begged to see Maya and the dog again. For the first time, Ethan didn't find a reason to say no. As soon as they entered, Maya waved cheerfully. "My favorite customers are back," she said. Liam giggled, and even Ethan chuckled under his breath. Maya guided them to their usual table, and it already felt like a familiar corner of their world. After bringing their drinks, Maya said Max is outside waiting. "He came extra early today." Liam's eyes brightened immediately. "Can I go feed him now?" Ethan nodded. "Go ahead, I'll watch from here." Maya walked outside with him, holding a small bowl of rice and chicken. She crouched beside Liam and helped him set the bowl down. The dog wagged his tail and started eating. Liam laughed as the dog's nose bumped against his hand. "He likes me the most," Liam said proudly. Maya smiled. "Of course he does. You're his friend." Inside the cafe, Ethan watched quietly through the window. His laptop sat unopened on the table. Something had changed in him since that first day. Work didn't feel as urgent anymore. He didn't want to miss a single second of his son's laughter. When they came back in, Maya poured Liam another hot chocolate and handed Ethan his coffee. "You know," she said softly, "he's a wonderful kid. He's gentle and patient. Not all children are like that." Ethan looked at her, slightly surprised. "He used to be." "Louder," he said. "Before the accident." He paused, his voice low. "He doesn't talk about his mother much anymore." Maya nodded quietly, not pushing him for more. "Kids don't always need words to tell us they're hurting," she said gently. "Sometimes they just need someone to listen even when they're quiet." Ethan didn't respond, but her words stayed with him. No one had ever spoken to him that was soft, kind but honest. Over the next few days, Ethan and Liam kept returning to the cafe. It became their quiet routine. Maya would greet them with her warm smile. Liam would rush to check on Max, and Ethan would sit by the window, pretending to read while secretly watching them both. Each day, Ethan found himself relaxing more. He noticed how Maya always had time for everyone, how she gave an extra cookie to a crying child, or how she offered free tea to an old man who came in just to talk. She treated people with a kind of care that Ethan had forgotten existed. One afternoon, the cafe was quiet. The lunch crowd had left, and the sunlight painted the tables in soft gold. Liam sat near the counter, drawing pictures of Max on napkins. Ethan sipped his coffee while Maya wiped the counter nearby. "You really love this place," Ethan said, breaking the silence. Maya smiled, looking around. "It's small, but it's mine in a way," she said. "I've worked here since my mom got sick. I like being around people. It reminds me that life can still be good, even when it's hard." Ethan tilted his head. "You're paying off her medical bills, aren't you?" She looked a little surprised but nodded. "Yes. It's been slow, but I'll get there." Ethan looked at her hands rough from hard work, but her smile never faded. "And what about your dream? You mentioned wanting to start an animal rescue center." Maya laughed softly. "Oh, that. It's just a dream. People like me don't get those kinds of chances." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "You never know. Life changes fast." She smiled at him, but her eyes showed she didn't really believe it. Still, her spirit didn't seem broken, just realistic at that moment. Liam came running over, holding up his napkin, drawing proudly. "Look, Dad. It's me, Max, and Maya. Ethan looked at the messy little sketch 3, smiling. Stick figures with a brown blob for the dog, and something inside him melted. He couldn't remember the last time Liam had drawn anything at all. "That's beautiful," Ethan said, his voice thick. "We should keep it," Maya laughed softly. "I think I've just been promoted to part of the family portrait," she said playfully. Liam grinned. "You are family now," he said simply. Ethan and Maya exchanged a glance, hers warm and kind, his uncertain but softening. The days passed and their visits continued. Ethan started helping Maya around the cafe when business slowed down, something completely out of character for him. He'd refill water glasses, move chairs, and once even carried a heavy box from the storage room. Maya teased him about it. "You're not bad at this, Mr. Businessman?" she said. Ethan smiled. "Don't tell my board of directors," he joked. Leah, meanwhile, was changing in small but powerful ways. He started talking more, smiling freely, and even trying to walk short distances without his father's help. Maya encouraged him every step of the way. "You're stronger than you think," she told him, one step at a time. One afternoon, when Maya reached out to ruffle Liam's hair, Ethan noticed something that made his chest tighten. His son didn't flinch. For months, Liam had pulled away whenever someone tried to touch him, even Ethan. But with Maya, he felt safe. He trusted her. Ethan realized she had given his son something he couldn't comfort without fear. That evening, after they left the cafe, Ethan drove in silence. Liam was humming in the back seat, holding a small treat that Maya had packed for Max. When they reached the hotel, Liam said sleepily, "Dad, Maya's like Mom, isn't she?" Ethan's heart twisted. He looked at his son through the rearview mirror. "She's kind like your mom was," he said softly. "Yes." When Liam fell asleep that night, Ethan sat by the window, staring at the quiet streets below. He thought about his wife, the accident, the years he had spent burying himself in work to avoid his pain. And then he thought about Maya, the way she smiled through her struggles. The way she cared without asking for anything in return. He realized how much he had been missing, not just in his life, but in his son's. For the first time in years, Ethan felt a sense of peace he couldn't explain. He didn't know what was happening or where it was leading, but he knew one thing clearly. The little cafe, the stray dog, the kind waitress somehow. They were all changing him, and deep down, he didn't want it to stop. The sky was dark and heavy that evening, clouds rolling in like gray blankets over the town. The cafe was almost empty, and the quiet was broken only by the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of rain tapping against the windows. Liam sat at their usual table, fidgeting nervously with his hands. Maya had not shown up for her shift yet, and he was beginning to worry about Max. The little brown dog usually waited patiently outside the cafe, but today it had not appeared. Ethan noticed the change in his son immediately. Liam's eyes were wide and anxious, and he kept looking toward the door as if expecting someone to walk in at any moment. "Where's Maya?" he asked quietly. "I'm not sure," Ethan replied. He tried to keep his voice calm, but inside he felt the first stirrings of panic. He had come to rely on Maya more than he wanted to admit, not just for Liam but for himself too. Her absence was unsettling. The rain began to fall in thick sheets, drumming on the roof and windows. Liam's lower lip trembled, and he clutched Ethan's hand tightly. "What if Max is out there alone?" he whispered. Ethan's chest tightened. He knew he couldn't let his son worry like this. Without a word, he grabbed his coat and said, "We'll go find them." He helped Liam into the car, careful with his son's braces, and started driving through the rain-soaked streets. The drops blurred the city lights into long streaks, and the roads were slippery, but Ethan didn't care. This was more important than any meeting, any business deal, any wealth he had ever acquired. As they drove, Ethan felt a strange mix of fear and urgency. What if something had happened to Maya? What if Max had wandered into danger? His mind raced, imagining every possible scenario. And yet the memory of Liam's laughter from the past few days pushed him forward. He couldn't let that happiness fade, not now. They checked the streets near the cafe, the small alleys where Max usually played, and even the park a few blocks away. There was no sign of either of them. Liam's grip on Ethan's hand tightened with every passing minute. "Dad, what if she's hurt?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Ethan stopped the car for a moment, taking a deep breath. "Don't worry," he said, though he wasn't entirely sure if he believed his own words. "We'll find them." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ethan spotted a small figure huddled under a bridge near the edge of town. It was Maya. Her clothes were soaked, hair plastered to her face, but she held something close to her chest. As they got closer, Ethan saw Max, shivering but safe, tucked under her jacket. She had wrapped the little dog in her arms to keep him warm. Ethan didn't know what to say at first. He parked the car, jumped out, and ran toward them. Maya looked up, startled but not afraid. She was worried about Max and hadn't even noticed them arriving. Liam ran toward her, calling out Max. "You're okay?" Maya smiled despite her wet hair and tired eyes. "I couldn't leave him," she said softly. "He needed someone, and I promised I'd take care of him." Ethan watched silently, a lump forming in his throat. He had never seen such pure, selfless care. Maya, soaked to the bone and shivering herself, had risked her own comfort to protect a stray dog. And Liam, his son, was standing there, face glowing with relief and joy. Ethan approached them slowly. He bent down, careful not to startle the dog. "Thank you," he said, his voice barely audible over the rain. "You didn't have to do that." Maya shook her head. "I had to. He needed help. He's my friend." Liam's small hand reached out to stroke Max gently. "See, Dad? He's happy," he said, his voice full of wonder. Ethan knelt beside them, feeling the cold rain soak his clothes, but he didn't care. All that mattered was that his son was smiling again, that Maya had shown such kindness, and that Max was safe. The three of them huddled together under the bridge for a few minutes, letting the rain wash over them, sharing warmth in a way that words couldn't describe. Ethan felt something breaking open inside him, an emotion he hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just relief. It was admiration, gratitude, and awe. He had spent so much of his life chasing power, money, and control. And yet here was a young woman with almost nothing, showing more courage and compassion than anyone he had ever known. Finally, Ethan carefully picked up Max and handed him to Liam. "Let's get inside," he said. Maya nodded, and they all ran toward the car, slipping in the mud but laughing despite themselves. The warmth of the car was a welcome relief from the storm outside. Liam held Max close, his little face buried in the dog's fur, and Ethan glanced at Maya. "You did something incredible," he said quietly. Maya shrugged, smiling. "I just did what felt right. That's all." Ethan's chest tightened again. He realized that money could buy many things, but it could never buy the kind of courage and kindness Maya had shown today. He thought about his own life, how often he had avoided risks, how much he had shielded himself and his son from the world. And yet here was someone showing him a different way, teaching both him and Liam a lesson that no amount of wealth could teach as they drove back to the cafe. The rain began to slow, and the sky lightened slightly. Liam dozed off, clutching Max, tired from the excitement but smiling even in sleep. Ethan watched them both quietly. He felt a surge of emotion he couldn't name. Pride, relief, gratitude. Perhaps all of them. That night, Ethan sat alone in his hotel room, staring at the quiet streets outside. He thought about Maya, her courage, her selflessness, and the way she had cared for Liam without hesitation. He thought about his son, so full of trust and joy, and he realized something important. The greatest gifts in life were not wealth, titles, or possessions. They were moments like this, small acts of kindness, courage, and love. For the first time in years, Ethan allowed himself to feel vulnerable. He let the emotions rise and fall unguarded as tears slipped quietly from his eyes. He thought of his wife, of the accident, and of the years he had spent hiding behind walls of money and work. And he thought of Maya standing soaked in the rain, holding a small stray dog, showing him a different way to live. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing clearly. This night had changed him. He had seen what true courage looked like. He had seen the power of love and kindness in its purest form, and he knew he would never forget it. When he finally went to bed, Ethan felt lighter than he had in years. The storm outside had passed, leaving the world fresh and new, and inside him, something had shifted. He understood now that real wealth was not in what he owned, but in the moments he shared, the lives he touched, and the love he allowed himself to feel. And for the first time, he felt ready to embrace it. The next week arrived with bright sunlight, birds singing, and a feeling of hope in the air. Ethan had been thinking non-stop about Maya, Liam, and Max ever since the stormy evening. He couldn't forget what he had seen Maya soaked to the bone, holding Max, showing courage and selfless love. Something inside him had changed. For the first time, he realized that money could never replace the things that truly mattered: kindness, trust, and moments of pure joy. Early that morning, Ethan drove to the small property near the cafe. It had been empty and forgotten for years, just a worn-down building with peeling paint. But Ethan had a plan. Over the past few days, he had quietly arranged for a complete renovation. Painters, builders, electricians, all of them had worked in secret. He wanted it to be ready for Maya before she even knew. Today, it would become her dream come true, a small animal rescue center, fully equipped just for her. When Maya arrived for her shift at the cafe, she noticed Ethan wasn't driving the black car. Instead, he waved at her from a distance. "What's going on?" she asked, curious. Liam ran ahead, excited to see her. "Come see, Maya. Come see," he shouted. Ethan led them down a narrow street toward the property. As they rounded the corner, Maya stopped, speechless. Before her stood a fully renovated building, painted fresh white and bright blue, with a neat garden outside. A hand-painted sign above the door read, "Maya's Haven." Maya's eyes widened, and for a moment she couldn't speak. Liam ran ahead, tugging at her hand. Look, it's for you." Ethan stepped forward, smiling quietly. "It's yours," he said simply. "Not charity. Not a gift. A thank you." Maya shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. I don't know what to say," she whispered. Her voice trembled. She had worked so hard, sacrificed so much, and yet here was something she never dared to imagine. Someone believed in her dream, believed in her courage, made it real. Ethan nodded toward Liam. "Your son's happiness has taught me something," he said. "He needed someone like you. And seeing the way you care, it changed both of our lives." Liam hugged Maya tightly. "Thank you. Thank you for helping Max. But now it's your turn. This is your place." Maya laughed and cried at the same time. She looked at the building again, imagining all the animals she could save, the warmth she could give them. I don't know how to thank you," she said. "You don't need to," Ethan replied. "Just do what you love. That's enough." Over the next few weeks, Maya started her work at the center. She rescued stray dogs and cats, giving them food, warmth, and medical care. Liam came every weekend to help, carrying bowls of water and small blankets for the animals. Max followed him everywhere, wagging his tail happily. Ethan often came by too, sometimes quietly watching from a distance, sometimes lending a hand. He noticed small changes in Liam every day. The boy's confidence grew. He smiled more freely. He laughed without fear. He even started walking short distances without holding on to Ethan. Using his braces steadily, guided by Maya's encouragement, Ethan realized that what his son had needed wasn't money or therapy alone. It was love, it was trust, and someone who believed in him. Maya had given that to him. One afternoon, as the sun set over the small town, Ethan watched Liam and Maya feeding a group of rescued puppies. Liam knelt on the ground, offering food to a tiny, trembling puppy. Maya crouched beside him, gently guiding his hand. Ethan felt a warmth spread through him, a joy that he had not felt in years. He quietly turned away for a moment, wiping his eyes, because he couldn't hold back the tears. It wasn't sadness, it was gratitude. Gratitude for Maya's courage, for Liam's laughter. For this moment that had taught him the true meaning of wealth, he thought about how far he had come. From a man who believed money could fix everything, to a father learning that love and kindness were worth far more than gold. Maya had reminded him of that in the simplest way. Through small acts of care and courage, Liam noticed Ethan's quiet tears and looked up. "Dad, are you crying?" he asked, curious. Ethan smiled, brushing his hand over his face. "Yes, buddy," he said softly. "But these are happy tears. I'm just proud of you. And proud of Maya, too." Maya smiled, her own eyes glistening. "You both make me very happy," she said. "Seeing Liam so joyful, it's the best reward I could ever ask for." That evening, as they walked back toward the car, Liam ran ahead with Max, laughing freely. Ethan followed, his heart lighter than it had been in years. He looked at Maya and said, "Thank you for everything. For showing us how to care, how to be brave, and how to love without limits." Maya laughed softly. "We taught each other," she said. "You helped Liam, and he helped you see what really matters." Ethan nodded. He realized she was right. For all his wealth and power, he had needed someone like her to open his eyes. And for Liam, Maya had been the friend, guide, and gentle teacher he needed. From that day on, the small-town-esque cafe and the newly opened rescue center became a place of joy and warmth. Families came to adopt animals, children learned to care for them, and Liam's laughter echoed through both places. Ethan had never imagined that a simple act feeding a stray dog could change so much. One quiet evening, Ethan sat in the car watching Liam and Maya play with a group of puppies outside the center. He felt an overwhelming sense of peace. He didn't need another business deal, another expensive toy, or a private jet. He had everything that truly mattered right here: his son's happiness, a friend like Maya, and the knowledge that he could be a better father as Liam waved at him. Smiling brightly, Ethan realized that true wealth had never been about money. It had always been about moments like this: love, trust, kindness, and the courage to help others without expecting anything in return. And in that moment, watching his son and Maya with Max and the other animals, Ethan felt richer than he had ever been in his entire life.